Like a fire from the ashes, Dark Phoenix has risen. What do we think of it? We're going to talk about our spoiler-free thoughts on Dark Phoenix today. We're also going to talk about Jessica Jones' latest trailer and so much more, including Keanu Reeves potentially joining the MCU and who we think he could be. Let's check out Marvel Movie News.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Marvel Movie News.
Good afternoon to you, our merry Marvelites. Welcome back to Marvel Movie News. I'm so excited to be joining you guys again in this week in the studio. How are y'all doing?
So good. I'm excited to hear you guys talk about Dark Phoenix because I'm excited to see it.
Yes, no spoilers.
No
Don't
spoilers.
worry. Don't worry.
But I want to know how it is.
Worried.
But spoiler alert, I'm Christian Bladt, and I'm so happy to see everyone.
Oh, and I am Xia Anderson. I'm also happy to see everyone.
I'm happier.
Okay, you know what,
It's
Christian?
not a contest.
I win.
I'm the happiest.
Okay, Zach's the
Everybody
happiest.
calm down. I'm Zach Wilson. We are coming to you live from the Gene Gary School for Gifted Youngsters.
Nice.
This is Marvel Movie News. You can follow us on Twitter at Marvel News PTN. Also follow our network Popcorn Talk on Twitter at The Popcorn Talk, which you can also go at some point today to see our real-time reaction to the Jessica Jones trailer, which we will be talking about later in Marvel TV time. So much to talk about. We have some big announcements. You know what? I'll give one of the announcements right now. We got an even bigger one coming up later. But one of the announcements, as we're talking about TV time, obviously we've talked plenty about the fact that Christian and Xia every Sunday host Marvel TV Weekly.
At 9 Pacific.
Which is on YouTube on our sister network AfterBuzz TV. What we've decided to do, because like we all love talking about Marvel, we talk about it constantly, twice a week at least for most of us. These two, not me. But we want to do we're going to do a trial for a few weeks on seeing about putting, for the podcast listeners, for those of you who are just hearing our wonderful voices, putting both of those shows into the same Marvel Movie News feed. And seeing if you guys like that, so that we can sort of cover more every week on the show and split up more, have more time for TV stuff and how the movies relate to the TV stuff on Sundays, and then the movies and a little bit of TV news as it breaks or whatever, as we have always covered here on Marvel Movie News on Thursdays.
Right, and everybody who watches online and watches the live YouTube feed, you'll still see that over at AfterBuzz. So that part's going to be the same.
If you're here live, same time, same place, Popcorn Talk. If you're joining on Sundays, same place, same time, AfterBuzz TV. But if you're listening, you get twice as much content every week, twice as much excited yelling about Marvel Movie News.
Twice as much Xia, and I apologize in advance, twice as much me.
And this is a show that we do for you guys. So we're gonna try this for a few weeks, see how you're all enjoying it, and then we're gonna reevaluate and see how we go from there. Because we want to make this the best show that it can be for you. So as we do this, please let us know what your thoughts are as we go, especially as we get towards Jessica Jones coming out very soon. All right, let's dive in to the show, because we have to get through. We're going to talk about Dark Phoenix. We're going to talk about Keanu Reeves. We're going to talk about some stuff that Tom Holland might have slipped about. This crazy crossover Fox project that never happened that apparently Zach Stentz was talking about this week. Plus Jessica Jones trailer, Blade, Morgan Le Fay on Runaway. There's a whole bunch of stuff, guys. And that's just a tease.
It's an exciting Marvel week.
So let's start with Dark Phoenix. Christian and I had the privilege to see it a little earlier in the week, ahead of the release.
And because sometimes people might think there's a trend, we asked Xia. She did have to work. She couldn't come. It seems like we never let her come to the movies with us.
They always say, like, look, we're going to go watch the movies. You can't come. We only have 2 tickets. Sorry.
No. I could have had a +2, but she couldn't go. So, yes, we saw it on Monday.
We tried to send Xia before we sent me.
Yeah.
That's true. They did ask me first, and I did try to work it out with my schedule.
Right.
But what are you going to do?
So, yes, Zach and I did get the chance to see it on Monday.
So, no spoilers, because we know it hasn't come out to at least most people, especially in the United States yet. Overseas, people are starting to see it, previews and all that. But, so Christian, let's start with you. No spoiler
No
thoughts.
spoilers.
What did you think of Dark Phoenix?
So, I've said many times on many shows that I've hosted, including this one, that I think that the Dark Phoenix Saga in the comics is the greatest comic book story ever written. Just case closed. The first attempt to do a movie was The Last Stand, which is literally my least favorite X-Men movie. I thought this did a decent job of Jean's portrayal of it, just dealing with that happening, I think they nailed that much more than in that movie. And as I've said, I look, I just didn't watch Game of Thrones. I don't know her from anything other than this, so I thought she was great. I really thought she did a good job with Jean, and the acting, I think, as Zach and I were talking after the movie, McAvoy's always good. Michael Fassbender is fantastic. He's not in it that much, but he's in it enough.
Michael Fassbender steals every scene that he is in. Like the biggest crime of Fox losing the rights to X-Men is that we will never get the Michael Fassbender standalone Magneto movie. That, like, I want that first 20 minutes of Apocalypse where it's Magneto in the woods with like trying to raise with his family, just trying to like live a life, but people keep persecuting him. Do that for 2 hours, and I will be there like days ahead of time. I won't, because there's
his story
but,
in Apocalypse. That's where he's living in the woods, working in a mill, and he's like,
well, that's what I mean. That was what I wanted.
That's what I wanted.
But that kind of magneticism that he brings to the role, like you can't help, you have to look at him whenever, like, he's the most interesting thing on screen whenever he's in the room, and that's just him as an actor being phenomenal.
I wonder if Disney, we should start a petition to get Disney to hire him as Magneto when they start that X-Men storyline.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. They sort of have to do a clean slate.
I get it, but
except for Ryan Reynolds, but like he gets to be special.
But like Michael Fassbender getting older isn't going to be a problem for that character.
No, see, that's
he could
the
be
thing.
10 years older, 15 years. It's going to be perfect. So
Dark Phoenix, overall, I thought it was okay. Okay, not great. It wasn't bad. I think people are being a little bit harsh on it in the general reviews.
Yeah.
I understand why they're reacting that way. It wasn't as good as we wanted it to be, as you want a Dark Phoenix movie to be. The biggest issues that I had with it were some of the arcs that the characters went through didn't feel earned, because they kind of rushed this story. They rushed into Dark Phoenix, where Sophie Turner does a fantastic job with what she's given, but this version of Jean Grey, we only had her for a movie and a half total. So she only really had like Apocalypse, and she wasn't in that a ton. And she to earn all of the emotional arc that Dark Phoenix demands of that character, but we're not attached to her yet. We just hadn't had time to be. And Apocalypse was such a that I wasn't invested in this take on Jean Grey to the point that like when she's the focal point of the movie, they acted like they had earned that attachment. They acted like it was Endgame, where we'd lived with these characters for so many years and we're ready to see them like come to this big finale, but it didn't hit there for your main character.
Because when you sit down to watch The Last Stand, I'm not even going to talk about the movie itself, you were definitely more attached to Famke Janssen Jean Grey than this Jean Grey, just because she'd been such a big part of those movies. So yeah, that definitely... It's definitely like they jumped. It's like there's a movie we didn't see. You know, there's like a movie between Apocalypse and this one.
Well, especially because, and like, sorry, no, it's okay. Especially because if you are thinking, like, oh, do I need to go rewatch Apocalypse to get ready for this? You really don't, because even like the stuff is, even with Jean Grey's character that they did in Apocalypse is taken out. Like, it doesn't. It's irrelevant. It's retconned.
Yes.
Like the little flash of Phoenix Force that you saw in Apocalypse is completely ignored. They don't even acknowledge that it happened, and in fact they negate that it like any reason that it should have existed, which is weird because this is all the same people making the movie.
The way that I was talking to somebody in a spoiler-free way about this movie is that it's like 2004 good. It's like good before we had the MCU movies. It's good if you'd had X2 and then this was the next one, you'd be like, oh, this is a little bit of a letdown, but okay, I get it. It's before we had the great Marvel movies of the Avengers and stuff.
Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Like I thought the action sequences were really, really fun. I think they used some of even the ones that aren't like big battles, but they used the superpowers in really interesting ways, where there's a scene. There's like they go to it's interesting. They go to a very famous X-Men location.
Yes.
They don't call it out in the movie. You have to like see it in the credits, which was a weird thing. And I won't spoil what it is. But but like once you see it, you watch the credits, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But there's a battle there between two characters, and it was really interesting to see them go head to head that way.
The one thing that I say about this movie, though, is that this is the best Nightcrawler movie we've had, because he gets to do so much in it, and we haven't had it. He's probably my second favorite X-Men. I love him, and I've always felt like we should have gotten more of him. He's great in this movie. He gets so much to do, and I'm a big Kurt Wagner fan. So even if the rest of the movie hadn't been good, I would have been so happy because of Nightcrawler. I love what
they were setting up with him too. Like they clearly were like getting ready to do something bigger because they were ready for another movie after this, and I think he was going to have a big part in it.
One question: how much Quicksilver do we get in this movie?
You get Quicksilver, period. So I didn't really answer your question.
No, it didn't, but I get him, so I'm excited.
We said commercial. You
I know.
Said it.
The commercial, yes.
I
kind of answered the question, though.
I kind of did. So I would think that, it's good, and I don't know. It's so far from the worst X-Men movie. That's what people... I'm like, just compare it to other X-Men movies. Last Stand... Origins Wolverine, I could keep going, but those are so bad. This is nothing like that.
Okay.
There are definitely flaws in this movie, and when we can talk about it with the spoilers, I'll definitely go into the things that bothered me.
Yeah, there were missed opportunities, and there were characters that they could have spent more time with, and they could have done more to build this world and like earn the emotional moments that they were doing. There are some choices like with Jessica Chastain's character that I don't necessarily. I don't know. I'm curious to hear once they start talking about it more what they were really going for. I didn't think it really landed the way that they wanted it to. There were James McAvoy was talking about the ending of the movie this week. Apparently, they changed it while they were shooting.
Yeah.
According to him, the ending that they had written was very similar to another superhero movie that had come out before them. He didn't say which one. The timing basically leads you to believe it had to have been either Captain Marvel or Infinity War. So I'm leaning towards Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And
when I read that, I considered DC movies too, and I couldn't think of, there's no way that Justice League or Aquaman,
those were far. Aquaman is the only DC movie that
so I think you're right. It has to be one of those two.
So I think it's based on it. I'm pretty sure it's Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And I won't go into the reasons because that would be getting to spoiler territory, but you can see that there's a little bit of like maybe undoing like oh well this and then there's maybe some remnants of what was there. I'd be very interested to hear what the original one was, but I just thought that was an interesting factoid.
Some people who have seen it and have posted about it are saying things like they're so glad that now Disney's going to get their crack. For me, I was just like, oh yeah, I think they had more cool stuff that they could have done. We could have actually seen it. Had Fox done another X-Men movie, I feel like Zach was just alluding to, they were building to something good. I mean, Olivia Munn let it slip in an interview that there was at least at some point a plan for another one that she was going to be in or whatever. So whatever that plan is, maybe it's just sort of a fun thing to find out maybe what that would have been, like what story they would have done or whatever. But so I look, the MCU, having them part of the MCU will be great. But I overall have been a fan of the Fox X-Men movies.
Yeah. And this is like the maybe last chapter, depending on what happens with New Mutants.
That's true.
Ahead. Yeah. And so we'll wrap this up because I don't know how much more we can say without all this vagary stuff. But that's at least our thoughts on it. Like I said, you can go into this as long as you've seen the movies. I don't think you'll have a problem with it. Like you've seen First Class, you've seen Days of Future Past, so you connected to these characters. Maybe you've seen Apocalypse. You don't need to rewatch it as long as you remember like the basics of it. Next week, we're going to be doing a full spoiler-filled review of Dark Phoenix, and it's going to be extra fun. I'm going to let Christian announce this one.
Extra fun.
Yes.
Yes, we'll be joined by longtime X-Men writer. His initial 17-year stint is basically the basis for kind of all of these movies. Chris Claremont from the Uncanny X-Men, who I've interviewed a few times, once on Marvel TV Weekly. So he's going to be here. And he's great because,
That's
first of
Zach's
all,
excited noise.
he's literally written more words than any author I've ever read. But also, no one talks about comics as thoughtfully as he does. And if you follow him on Instagram, you know he was at the premiere, and from what it seems, he at least enjoyed the movie, and it'll be great to kind of loop him into the conversation.
I mean, in so many ways, the father of all of what you love about the X-Men.
I'll just give one thing. Before Chris Claremont ever wrote Wolverine, the claws were inside of his gloves. Okay, so the idea was that he took the gloves off and the claws went off too. This is just one little tiny fact of what a character was like before he wrote them. So
join us next week. Chris Claremont will be calling in to talk about Dark Phoenix with us. All the spoilers, and that's going to be a blast to do. So look forward to that. We're going to be teasing it a lot throughout the week, so we'll remind you.
Yes.
So let's moving on from Dark Phoenix, because there's a bunch of other news to talk about this week. Let's move on. Let's talk about Chris Hemsworth for a moment, because this was in the news, and I think like nerd media is wont to do this, they made a bigger deal out of this than it was. But Chris Hemsworth said he's going to take a break from acting. He said, "I'm not going to be in any projects for the rest of the year." That's what he said. And everyone's like, does this mean that he's not in Guardians of the Galaxy 3? What's going to... Everybody calm down. Take a deep breath. Chris Hemsworth was in Infinity War, Endgame, Men in Black comes out next week.
Yeah.
He's been working.
I know
his
I know there's
butt
other stuff,
off.
but he's.
I mean, look, he's been working so hard. Look at how much weight he lost between Endgame and Men in Black.
It's true.
It's just, yeah, like
I want to be
really
on
got into
that
shape.
workout. Yeah.
But yeah, I think with the fact is, like, the Suicide Squad hasn't started filming yet. James Gunn isn't going to start on Guardians 3 until he's completely done with the Suicide Squad. That's what he said. So at earliest, mid-2020.
Yeah.
And that's not even confirmed yet. I think if Chris Hemsworth takes the rest, he's probably just taking the rest of 2019 off to, like, spend with his family and maybe sleep a little bit.
Well, that's what he said. He said his kids are starting to notice that he's gone more. He wants to just spend a little bit of time with them. And then in 2020, that'll be like almost a full year. It's fine. Like, he's not going to take 20 years off. I'm sure everyone. It's going to be okay.
And like, if they have planned for him to be in Guardians 3, I'm sure he's going to be in Guardians 3. The question of, like, when did that decision get made to put him in that ship with them versus, like, when James Gunn did the last pass at the script, I'm very curious. Because James Gunn is an executive producer on Endgame.
Yeah.
So he knew, at least at some point, that they were going to do that. Where in the timeline? Who knows?
And it seems like even if it wasn't something that he had originally planned on, it's something that could certainly be made room could be made for it to happen, because it's such an interesting story. People are talking about it already. It's something that people want to see.
Yeah. At the very least, you would have a cameo to, like, show him, like, getting dropped off somewhere.
Something, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Anything.
Yeah.
But, like, you have to do that. You have to do that at this point.
Yeah.
At the very minimum. Whether they baked in him to the whole story, I'll be very interested to see. And I could see that have been the plan.
Yeah. I mean, I want that. Literally all I want to see is like fights and like workout, like battling between Star-Lord and Thor. That's literally all I want from that movie. I don't care whatever else they do. I just want to see them being like, no, I'm going to get into shape, like with a Bowflex on the ship. So yeah, that's what I want to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's in it a lot, and yeah, good for him. Take a break. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, he's been in a lot of movies in just the last 5 years alone. So,
Yeah.
And you know what? In half the movies he's in, Tessa Thompson's in it too. So
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it.
They keep talking about they're gonna work together until they die.
Yeah,
like,
great.
They're having fun. They were even doing some, like, character shipping in some interviews leading up to Men in Black.
Oh, that's funny.
Because they were talking about the fact that you have so many people shipping Valkyrie and Captain Marvel.
Oh, Captain Marvel,
and they were
yeah,
saying, well, wouldn't it be fun to do a love triangle rom-com for the next movie where Valkyrie and Thor and Carol Danvers are competing for Valkyrie's attention?
Wow.
I could see that being actually
love
really
that.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that'd be
would.
great.
I'd watch the hell out of that. speaking of crazy rumors, there was this is not even a rumor. This was confirmed that this was in development at one point. Zach Stentz went on the Fat Man Beyond podcast with Kevin Smith and was talking about the fact that at one point he had been hired and turned in a draft of a crossover movie for Fox. This was years and years ago. That would have been a crazy level crossover between X-Men, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, all in one movie. Would have had Deadpool in it.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to say, and Deadpool, but, like, Deadpool is covered by the X-Men.
Sure.
Technically. But, like, all of those characters in one movie. Are you guys sad this didn't happen?
Yes.
I don't know that I am.
I don't know if I'm sad the movie didn't get made, but I want to read the script. So
Yes.
I'd love to read
Yeah.
it and see what it would have been, because it could have been awesome. And look, this could have been the Fantastic Four movie we always wanted, aka a good one. So I don't know. And just thinking like, wait, is it Ben Affleck Daredevil, or were they going to hire somebody else?
Hopefully somebody else.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry,
but,
Ben Affleck.
So it asks so many questions. I'm fascinated by the project because look, I love me some team ups. So I would like to have seen what it was, but there's probably a myriad of reasons why it didn't go past the script stage.
Yeah.
you know?
I don't even care if it was I wouldn't even care if it was bad. I just want to see it. Like, I don't even care if it was the worst movie ever. I still think it would be amazing to watch.
That's why you're going to see Godzilla this weekend.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is. How dare you, Christian?
Whatever.
Hey, Godzilla was fun.
Oh,
Go see Godzilla if
All
you
right.
if you want to see giant monsters fight each other.
I do.
kind of do.
Like,
all right, I'll go.
it's
You're
a
like,
Godzilla
actually.
movie. Like, it's not the best Godzilla movie. It's fun though. Off topic,
Yeah,
but
but
like
hey, relevant.
off topic. It's fun. It didn't have Godzuki, but like I'll always be complaining about that. 5 people know what I was talking, but I just the words I just said. Anyway, so apparently that was in the works. I had heard rumors about this back in the day, like because they at one point had brought in Mark Miller, the famed comic book author.
The kick-ass guy, right?
Yeah, he also wrote the original Civil War
Right.
and countless other books. Prolific. Fox had brought him in at one point to oversee their Marvel brand.
Wow.
And there was he was talking about like a movie where that would bring the X-Men and the Fantastic Four together at some point. So Fox had been thinking about it and according at the time they had said that the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie was technically in the same universe as the X-Men films. That was the idea that they were playing with. That movie obviously didn't pan out, so there was at that point they went, we're not even making a second one of these, so we don't need to cross them over with another franchise.
Let's not taint other franchises with the fan-fortastic.
It's just,
Actually,
I thought you guys would appreciate it because it's interesting to
Yeah.
hear about. And that one was actually true, not a rumor. This next story is 100% a rumor, but we keep taking them as truth. So let's keep going. Supposedly, Eternals is continuing to build out their crazy cast that they probably, it makes sense because it's unknown characters. It helps to bring in
Yeah.
big names like Keanu Reeves.
I don't even care who he is. I just want to see him in the movie so badly.
Keanu Reeves, star of the John Wick franchise and the Bill and Ted franchise.
Yes.
Both awesome franchises. Thank you.
Both getting more entries next year.
Yes.
I would
So
like,
excited.
I would like one entry of where he plays both characters, Ted and John Wick. So let me know if that happens.
Well,
That'd be great.
I was talking about this with some people, and they were like, "Can we do John Wick versus Deadpool?"
Oh my
love that.
god.
Great idea. So, yeah, basically the rumor is that Keanu Reeves is going to be cast in Eternals, or like he's been meeting with Marvel. Makes sense. He's a very hot actor right now, in more senses than one. But so it makes it, he's the perfect level to jump into a Marvel film where he's really taken off from one big franchise. He's got another smaller franchise doing a reboot next year with Bill and Ted.
yeah.
Very excited about that. But he doesn't like have that like breakout like blockbuster. John Wick is arguably that. Not since The Matrix. Recently.
Talking about, are you telling me that Constantine wasn't a blockbuster? You know what? I like that movie though.
I actually
don't care what anyone says. I
like
enjoyed
Constantine.
it.
Look, but like Constantine was over a decade ago.
Right, it was. You're right. It was a long time ago.
So he's in the exactly the right. He's very much a nerd figure. He's exactly. Keanu Reeves is perfect for the MCU.
Yes, he is.
Here's my question, you guys. Who would you want, either in Eternals or not, who do you want Keanu Reeves to play? Just let's fan cast this a little bit. Chat, get in on this game too.
Let me get right to the chat while Zia thinks about it, because Langley M. Neely says, my guess for Keanu Reeves is Arrow/Star Fox, a guy that makes women and men go weak in the knees. Yes, please. I love Star Fox. He was on the Avengers when I first started reading the Avengers, so that's a character I love.
Great choice.
That is a great choice.
Because Keanu Reeves can play the comedic angle of Star Fox for sure. We've maybe not so much from John Wick, but you see it in other movies. So that's a great call. I almost am afraid now to try and think of anything else. But
I actually within Eternals, I think Hercules could be a good one. Hercules doesn't have to be super buff, and I think it's actually more interesting to see Hercules as someone who's not super buff.
And it's not like he's not in good shape. He is.
Yeah.
He is in good shape. So yeah.
But that's the thing, like a character who has that much strength coming from a slim guy is almost like more interesting to me. And look, they've talked a lot about like when the first LGBT character to be in the MCU, Hercules is canon, and the Marvel Hercules is canon bisexual. I think that would be a great role to, and especially to put a character like that in the spotlight by having someone like Keanu Reeves play them. I think Hercules would be a plus. Like he could keep the beard.
Agreed. I think that'd be cool. I saw this in the chat, and I was also thinking it. Yeah, Silver Surfer. I think that would be cool.
He could be good as a Silver Surfer.
That's almost 2 on the nose.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate it.
I mean, if if he's gonna basically be Silver Surfer, and they're gonna build like Point Break around him, I think that's probably what we need.
I really like here in the chat, Mark Balam, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Star Fox is basically omnisexual, like Captain Jack. I would love to see another character like that Jack. Because he is the absolute best.
As much as I had Hercules as like my what I was gonna say in this answer, I think Star Fox is a way better
such
choice.
A great answer.
As some Keanu Reeves is also just such a charming person, like in real life and like on screen, that I think he could bring a lot of charm to that character who has to have it.
Yeah.
And
I would just
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would just really love to see a Captain Jack character where he's just sleeping with everybody, hitting on everyone.
That is the Deadpool we should get on the screen, because that's the comic book Deadpool. But we'll see if we get that. And now he's got this extra skill set as John Wick, as somebody who can you just buy that he's going to take out an entire room of like 20 people. So that lends himself to so many characters. Like, I don't think look, we don't need a movie of this, but I could see him playing somebody that's sort of like a standalone, like the Punisher, at somewhere down the road. If that's something they'd be interested in. By the way, Mr. Duck Sauce in the chat keeps saying he can be the Beyonder. When you actually see the Beyonder as a person, it's such a letdown, like mullet Beyonder from Secret Wars 2. So I like the Beyonder more as like omniscient, like ray of light. So I'd rather it not be that. He
could be a cool Beyonder.
He could be. He totally
could. Like I'm just picturing it's sort of like a weird full circle thing too. If he ends up playing what is basically
Rufus.
the architect from the Matrix.
I was thinking it was Rufus from Bill and Ted, but yes, also the architect. Yeah, so it's like full circle in a lot of different circles. Yeah.
So beyond, I don't think that we're gonna get the Beyonder in anything anytime soon.
No.
But Keanu Reeves could have been a cool choice for that role.
I've just been convinced, by the way, because at first it seemed like I don't want a Beyonder, but yeah, if he's the Beyonder, it would be pretty cool.
Like if you just see him walk out as this super chill, look, this is what I've done to the universe.
Yeah.
Now fight. That could be really interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of choices. Keanu Reeves, I am seeing in the chat a lot of people talking about him as playing Druig, who is a major villain in the Eternals franchise. And Keanu Reeves playing a villain could be really interesting. He doesn't play that kind of role very often.
He doesn't.
He's usually the hero.
But it would be nice to see. I mean, I personally think that he has the range for it. And I think that would be just a nice twist for everybody, because you're going into it thinking that he would be a hero, and you're like, oh.
This is the other one that's out there that is not the Eternals, but also seems to fit. What do you think of Keanu Reeves as Adam Warlock?
That would be really cool. That he has the
Yeah.
right demeanor for somebody like
He
Adam
does.
Warlock, like that kind of power, but not really inclined to use it.
And Adam Warlock, likely the at least to start with, the lead villain of Guardians 3, the way that we set it up. Probably
Yeah.
not by the end of the movie, but at least to start. And you could totally see Keanu Reeves being Keanu Reeves is a strong enough actor that he could suck the attention away from even the whole Guardians cast.
The
in
Guardians
a sequence.
cast plus Thor, by the way.
Plus-
Yeah,
yeah.
If you think
so
that,
just
yeah.
saying a lot.
that's the thing. You have to get somebody super charismatic to play any whoever the villain is, especially if it's going to be Adam Warlock, who's going to be opposite of a team of Zoe Saldana, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth, Rocket Raccoon and Groot, like Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel,
Yeah.
but just on screen with those two characters running it, plus Dave Bautista as Drax. There's so much there that to take anyone's eyes off of them, you have to have somebody perfect.
That's true. Although I have already cast Adam Warlock in my head, and now that I've cast it, I'm like, no, this is the only thing I
did
want to
you
see. I'm
cast?
going to be really let down. I can never say his name, and I know I'm not saying it right. Jamie Lannister.
Oh, we have to say that. Yeah, even I know who that is.
Good luck. He would also be a good choice for Adam Warlock. I think. I don't know that he has the same presence, but he does have.
He
chops.
doesn't have the same presence, but I know he has the chops, and I would love to see him in the MCU. And now in my head, he's Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a letdown.
Two casting theories from the chat really fast. Gamer Girl says Living Tribunal, and Anthony Manzano says Namor.
I like Namor, too.
I would be fine with him as Namor. I
Yeah.
don't know what movie that would be, but
we'll figure it out.
I don't see Namor because I don't see Namor in my mind is kind of Snidely Whiplashy,
See, to me, he's always been Mr. Spock. Just
Yeah.
in a bathing suit.
but
so.
similar. Somehow those two collide.
Yeah. That's true.
It's Snidely.
Snidely Spocklash.
Here's your soundbite for today's episode. Namor is Snidely Whiplash crashed into Spock.
Okay,
Snidely Spocklash.
nice.
But I don't see Namor personally. But the others I totally get. But anyway, Keanu Reeves. Let's just see him in the MCU. It's time.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
time.
Please.
Let's jump.
Oh,
over.
agreed. Also,
Well,
sorry.
now
One more.
Jenna
One
Jameson-
more.
No, this
Last
is different.
one.
She says Alexander Skarsgård for Warlock, so that's
I
different. That's a
agree.
totally-
I actually do. That's
Also
a good
could
choice.
work.
Okay.
Also could work.
Anyway.
But let's jump over to Tom Holland and Spidey Man.
Hey.
Because Tom Holland can't keep his mouth shut. But at this point, people are think he might be trolling. So potential minor spoilers, but the internet thinks that these might be intentionally misdirecting spoilers. Because he was giving an interview about, obviously, Spider-Man Far From Home is coming up in less than a month now, July 2nd, and it's June 6th. Less than a month to Spider-Man, you guys. How crazy is that? And he was talking about the Elementals and the fact that you have guys they're adapting characters like Hydro Man, who are kind of lame and silly in the comics, but they're making them crazy and badass in this movie. And he was saying how they got here. Minor spoiler alert. Is that there were dimensional holes caused by Thanos' snap. I have to snap every time I do it. I can't help it.
Yeah, of course.
But the idea being that Thanos didn't tear the universe a little bit when he did that, and he was on Earth, so it would make sense that that kind of thing would happen locally. And some monsters came through from presumably the same hole in the dimensional hole.
I'm sorry.
that
I just
Mysterio
because you
came
said
out.
hole. I'm so sorry.
Grow up, Zia.
You're the worst.
I can't.
But yeah, so you have that's the that's what he's saying.
The thing is that explanation makes perfect sense. So of course you'd think and be like, oh, that's Tom Holland spoiling again. But you're right. It would also make sense for him to be very misleading with stuff because we all know him as the spoiler. So I don't know. That's a good question.
It's a good question. It makes sense.
It does.
And if he has spoiled it, I'm okay with it. That's not going to change my enjoyment of the movie one or the other. So.
Yeah, that's way less of a spoiler than it feels like half of the trailers for that movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know if we've talked about it on this show, but I do love the story story that he thought he was filming Tony Stark's wedding scene in Endgame.
That's what he said.
Yeah, and then watching it 3 times now, when he's talking to Tony Stark in that movie, almost all of his dialogue is ADR, additional dialogue recording. It's looped in after the fact because they didn't want him to know that far out. It's like, this is 5 years later. This, because he has all these spoilers and they're like, oh yeah, we can't trust him to say it. So they probably had him loop it like a month or 2 before it came out. That was just something that I've been meaning to talk about on the show, and this tied into that. So.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, he had to shoot Far From Home
Yeah.
before that movie released, which obviously has the same spoilers. So, like, take that all with a grain of salt. Because
Right.
you can't, even the stuff in the trailer, you couldn't have shot without him knowing how Endgame ended. It would have been tough.
Yeah.
That said, it is fun to talk about this. All right. We still got a bunch of TV stuff, including a
Oh
big
my
old
God.
trailer to talk about.
right.
Let's do Marvel TV time!
Marvel movie news. We're talking TV time.
I'm like faking a mic in front of myself, and then, like I literally have a mic in front of
You
myself.
haven't, and I hit my mic
you did.
by strumming
So
too
apologies
enthusiastically.
to the listeners everywhere. All right, some cool stories, and we got Doom's Question Corner coming up. Where I've got at least one, maybe more questions from you guys to talk about. Jessica Jones. 1 week from tomorrow, or
right.
from tonight at midnight,
True.
we will get Jessica Jones season 3, the final season of the show. They released the trailer this morning. They actually did it in time for us to talk about it on the air.
I
Which, by the way,
know.
thank you, Netflix. I'm mad about
Finally.
you getting rid of all the shows, but I appreciate this.
Yeah, I was like, I knew that they had teased yesterday that they were going to drop it today, and I was like, oh, don't drop it at 2. I swear to
2:30.
God.
Or 1:30 even. We're halfway through the show and we can't watch it and we get done and we're like, oh.
Usually when they tease it, they tease stuff like that, they release it at the beginning of the day. But it's when they don't tease it and they're just like, here's some news. What did you guys think of the trailer?
It made me really excited. Honestly, made me really excited to watch it, which is saying something because I like Jessica Jones. I really like the character. I like the show. It just because season 1 dragged for me, and because David Tennant wasn't in season 2, except for one episode. Christian, I know.
Just saying.
But he wasn't in all of it. I kind of put off watching it. I still haven't watched it. I'm caught up on every single show, but that was one of the ones that I was like, okay. I'm not super excited for it, but now that I've seen the trailer for season 3, I'm really excited because it looks awesome. I really like the turn that they're taking. I know, I'm sorry, Zach.
Season 2. Season 2 is super underrated. Just like they didn't feel the need to overly do a comic book character
Yeah.
as part of the story. They just did the second season of what they created in season 1, and that's why I thought it was so good. Like, they didn't focus on like, oh, well, this is going to be the season where we do this villain. It's just the next season. It's the
Right.
logical progression of her story.
Well, as long as that makes
I thought it was.
sense.
I really loved it for that reason. Season 1 is stronger, like no
Agreed.
doubt.
Yeah.
And season 1 is still, I think, my favorite Netflix season of any of those characters. Hard to argue with. Like, I mean, hard to like decide when you're putting it against like Daredevil season 3, which I thought was
Yeah.
really great, and Daredevil season 1 was really good.
For me, Punisher season 1 is like my number 2. For me,
Punisher
it's
season-
Daredevil,
yeah.
Punisher.
Yeah.
Punisher season 1 was great. Wasn't for me, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just wasn't
Right,
for me.
just not your thing.
Yeah.
Get it.
But this trailer looks great.
Looks awesome.
Guys, throw up that picture.
We need the picture. Because I want to
Guys,
say that this is what I'm most excited
yeah,
about.
guys, if you listen to any of the stuff I've talked about Jessica Jones ever on any podcast, you know I'm super excited for Hellcat, and we're getting at least a version of Hellcat. She jumped down from a bridge.
And landed on her feet just like a cat, guys.
Exactly.
I don't know
was
if
impressive.
we're that sort of implies to me some kind of superpower stuff. I like.
I hope so. Can we
Yeah,
please?
Zia, you whisper that so
I
quietly.
know. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
so
hope
that's
so.
that's what I ask. Like that clearly looks to have some superpowers about it. We know that last year Trish was experimenting with a sort of like facsimile for like MGH,
Right, exactly.
mutant growth hormone. That's not what it was, but like effectively the same result. Do you think it was Nuke's pills?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think. It's funny because that was I didn't even watch season 2, and in my brain I was like the pills.
Right, exactly.
But,
Makes sense.
But she already dealt with that addiction. Do you think that this is like latent from that, or is she going, or might we go a little bit supernatural with her, what like her character does in the comics?
I would personally like to see that, but I don't know. Yeah, it makes sense to. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I feel like it's been more set up that this
Yeah.
is what that is. It'd be cool if that's the turn and takes. That's going to be great.
Like,
but I think that it's
pills.
the pills and the treatment
That's
she
what
went
I
through and
thought.
all that. You know, I think that the fact that she didn't really have any of this before that, and now she does, it seems like that's what they set up. So that's my inclination.
It makes sense. I just wanted to talk about it because like we're getting Hellstrom now, and like part of me, I wish, like I want so badly for them to like take Hellcat into Hellstrom and
That'd be
do
awesome.
that their storyline
That'd be
in this
awesome.
darker version of the world.
Which I'm hyped for Hellstrom, by the way. Like hyped for that show.
It sounds good. I'm more excited for Robbie Reyes.
Way more
but
excited.
Also, yes.
We're talking about Jessica Jones right now.
Sorry. Getting sidetracked, guys. There's so many good shows.
I am just excited to see because Trish has been one of the like highlights of this show. Her arcs have been great, and like she's been phenomenal to watch over the first 2 seasons. I'm excited to see her actually take on the role of Hellcat for season 3. But I digress. What do you guys think of the villain? Christian was the first of us to recognize this villain by name.
Yes, so they tell you it's Greg Salinger, and now that I think we mentioned at the top of the show that we did a reaction video that people can find over at Popcorn Talk, but I've now been able to cheat and look up a little bit more. So he's Fool Killer, and it's not the first Fool Killer, but so he's not the one that you'll see with the basically looks like one of the 3 Musketeers with the big blue hat. He's a little bit more like Deadpool, which makes sense because he was one of Deadpool's mercs for money, which was a lot like Heroes for Hire, and it's a very interesting character who's run into everybody from the Defenders to Spider-Man and well, as I mentioned, Deadpool. So it'll be interesting to see how much of that. I mean, you don't give him this guy's name and then not do some of it. You know, I'm going to assume there's going to be no costume at any point. You know, but so it'll be kind of interesting to see because this is a real maniacal character, one of those ones that, you know, the best way to compare him, really, you do have to venture over to another universe. He's a little bit more like the Joker in that way, you know? He's like that sort of like, completely unpredictable kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to see what their take is for this show. And I don't think this was a character that was sitting around waiting to be used in a movie. So I love when they take these characters, you know, like Zach said, season 2, great that they didn't use anybody, but I'm glad that we're getting somebody who looks like he's going to be the main villain. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, like this character, it's like pretty down to earth in terms of just like power level. Like he's a normal person. There's no like true superpowers. He's just a vigilante. So what we saw in the trailer is that he is going after Jessica, claiming that she is a liar or she is
A fraud.
She's definitely a fraud and a cheater. Those are all
a
words that
cheater.
he uses, and I believe there's a dollar bill with that written on it. So,
They looked like it could have been dollar. I thought it looked like bonds,
well, yeah,
which is like a weird thing.
I
I was
think
just
that
like,
they were
is that a bond?
I think that they were bad prop dollar bills that they needed to, you know, look rigid for the camera. But,
Maybe.
so that's probably why it looked like a savings bond. You're right. Now that you say it, it totally looked like a savings bond.
I only know because I like finally cashed in like the stuff I had for my bar mitzvah this year. They take like 15 years to mature.
Yeah, they do take forever.
I didn't know that was a thing, but I will take your word
will
for
also need 15 more years to mature. But anyway, back to your point.
it. Nice.
So, like, it still remains to be seen, like, why he's going after Jessica. Is it just, like, he latched onto her, thinking that she's lying about the powers, or that it maybe has misused the powers is always potential, as somebody who's, like, violent, but doesn't... The interesting thing to note in the trailer, we see Jerry Hogarth, who appears to be representing Mr. Salinger.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see that.
I don't understand how she's still a lawyer, but sure. Okay. Anything can happen.
Jerry can
TV rules.
lie through her dang teeth.
That's true.
And convince. And she could sell you the Brooklyn Bridge 5 times. So I believe that she could get her license back, or like put anything that has happened under.
She'll
the
be
rug.
fine. But yeah, she is one of those people like Trish who can always land on her feet.
Yeah. Ah,
That was good.
give me more Hellcat. I'm so excited for Hellcat.
I like that we're getting that first. I hope we get to see the actual costume, but I like that we're getting, just like you mentioned during the watch along or before we did the trailer reaction, that it's like Daredevil season 1.
It's Daredevil's costume.
Yeah, it is. It basically is. But I like that because I like to sort of see that beginning stages of like, well, I'm just throwing a scarf over my head and I'm gonna go out and fight crime, to like getting to actually.
But her yeah.
Yo, go ahead.
Her head, like, mask, the head part, the like face part of her mask is black, so it works. We did put her in a yellow suit.
Yeah.
Up till then, it might be a little loud for like Netflix gritty
And like running
night
around
fighting.
at night, because it makes perfect sense to wear a bright
And
yellow suit. But still,
I know.
maybe just once. You know, like
Yeah.
we got in Luke Cage with.
Where he puts on the laundry.
Yeah, where he
and-
it's yeah. Like,
Yeah,
that's
or
just-
like Jessica Jones, where they showed off the jewel costume for a
Yeah,
moment.
just
Like, I'm
once.
sure that they will do a version of it in some way. It's just a question of
And
how.
then, of course, this is sort of the disappointing thing on that we all know that the Marvel Netflix universe is closed, because if not, this is where we would be talking about, like, are we going to get our own Hellcat series? But now, of course, there's no chance of that.
No.
Yeah, just send her to Hulu.
Yeah.
For Hellstrom, or for Hellcat, the series where she goes to dang
Right.
hell. Like, I would watch the heck out of that. And like,
watch
it's
the
not
hell
even-
out of that.
And like, this is not even necessarily like we're gonna get like Hellcat, and this is like the dark version of her character. I still love the Kate Leth version of the character, where she's like a unemployed person trying to just like find like a job for her and other people with like minor superpowers, and when Hellstrom shows up, it's just he's the dick ex-boyfriend. Like, that's my favorite version of that character, but I'll take the dark one too, because what they've done with Trish has been fantastic. All right, there is more TV news to talk about, and I want to make sure we have time for Question Corner. Speaking of Hulu, there is a stronger rumor now, that Blade is being developed for Hulu.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
To basically to pair with Hellstrom and Ghost Rider. What do you guys think? Do you think it's like this? There's been rumors about this for years, more so with Netflix, but obviously Netflix going away. Do you guys think this could be finally the time we see the vampire Hunter return?
I mean, it would make sense because it does go along with the other shows that we're getting on Hulu. It fits. I'm just gonna throw this out there, even though I understand that this is probably highly unlikely. But Wesley Snipes still looks pretty darn good. So
That's what I was about to say.
Really?
Is that I'll be more excited if Wesley Snipes is, but I think that character lends itself to a series. I think it'll work better than it did as a movie. So
Still
and
love
yeah,
the
like
movie.
Zach said,
Loved
it
it.
really ties in so well to the territory you're covering with Ghost Rider and Hellstrom. It's great because they've carved out a different feel than we were getting from like the Hell's Kitchen / Harlem Heroes. So I think this is great.
Yeah, I think it could work on Hulu. The only problem is who I really want to play Blade. Like, Wesley Snipes is
that?
obviously like the legacy person to play him, but I think like having him do a cameo would be more appropriate. Like, I want a young Blade
Who are you
to come
thinking?
in.
I'm
I want
curious.
John Boyega as Blade.
Okay.
I do like him.
He's wrapping up on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Disney's already got
I
him in
don't
the
hate
family. Like,
I would like
Blade
that.
is British.
that's true.
John Boyega is British. I know he doesn't sound that way in Star Wars.
No, but he
he's
is, like,
very much
yeah.
British. Please let him run rampant as a vampire hunter in the MCU. So, like, whether that's on, I don't think you could get him on Hulu unless you're really going to increase Hulu's budgets.
lot.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes would be more expensive than John Boyega for sure.
No way.
His asking price would be higher. Let's put it that way. He's
could
still,
see
because you know he's not
Still
going to pay
gotta pay
taxes.
off some debts.
So maybe take a smaller paycheck because he's not going to get taxes taken out.
We had opposite takes on that same joke.
But anyway, I don't know. He's a great choice, though. I would love to see that.
I
but,
can see that,
You
yeah.
know, often a lot lot of these things, you know what's going to work? An unknown. So that'll
Yeah.
be fine too.
Which
that's probably what we're going to get.
Which I'm fine with. I just, yeah. I think I saw someone say, is it Mahershala Ali?
I mean, he would be good. But
I think that he would be
He's
great.
still Cottonmouth to me. So.
No, I know, but I could see him as Blade.
There's a lot of truth. And yes, to the chat, like Blade in the comics is British.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, Wesley Snipes.
Is not British.
Yeah,
but
but he is. gamer girl Noelle Clark, who was played Mickey from Doctor Who.
Oh, I would like that gamer girl.
You know that he has the like violent.
He really doesn't, but I just love him.
He's a good. I do enjoy seeing him. I haven't seen him in anything in a while, at least not that I've realized. But
Yeah.
yeah.
What has Mickey done? It's been so long.
Who knows? Let him live his life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I the problem is like I can't think of anyone. I don't know that you could do better without going unknown than John
Yeah.
Boyega.
Yeah. I actually kind of
So I
agree.
can't get that out of my head. But so Blade rumored to Hulu. And on Hulu, and this is sort of giving credence to this like expanded supernatural world that you've already seen with the Runaways start to build out, especially with the Minoru clan on there. We got confirmation. We got news this week, not just confirmation because we didn't know about it. Morgan Le Fay,
Dude, don't even get me started.
the
So excited.
witch of Arthurian
Yes.
legend, is coming to Runaways, and even crazier than that, she's gonna be played by Elizabeth Hurley.
Right, though?
What do you guys think of this casting choice?
Okay, first of all, great casting choice. Second of all, so excited for that character. Without going too deep into it, for those of you that like don't know, growing up reading, holy crap, all I read was stuff about fairies and like Arthurian time. Like, I'm so obsessed. So the fact that we're getting this in a show, I'm so excited.
Yeah, and she's
And Elizabeth Hurley is,
Yeah, she's the character's obviously been used in Marvel Comics plenty to be a sorceress and do all that. But like, yeah, bring her into the Runaways.
half fairy. She's half fairy, you guys.
It's good casting, but I'll have to say you haven't lived if you haven't watched the unused Wonder Woman pilot with Adrian Padalecki as Wonder Woman and Elizabeth Hurley as the villain in it.
Oh my God, I forgot Elizabeth Hurley was
What?
in that.
So I'm a little bit less excited because of that, but I think
Now
that
I
she'll
need to
play
go
it.
watch
No, look,
It's a little. She's a little big performance wise. She could dial it down a little.
look, you can't judge anyone by what was in that pilot. Like Adrian Palicki is such an amazing Mockingbird on Agents
do
of
love
S.H.I.E.L.D.
her as Mockingbird.
And do not watch her as Diana Prince in that show. That pilot, because I watched it at some point. It's
Me too.
awful. Look, we don't have time.
No, I know,
but
I think she can be good. She's been great in a lot of things.
Did you see her in that Brendan Fraser movie where she plays the devil? What was it called?
Oh,
did you guys see that?
Bedazzled?
Bedazzled, that's what
I
it
did
was
see
called.
that movie.
Yes, I've seen that movie more times than I care to admit. Mostly right after it came
same.
out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Same.
But yeah.
Anyway,
look
she's
for
great in
that. Real quick, because I want to make time for this question for like to talk a little bit of questions. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week. This episode frustrated me a little bit. Like spoilers a little bit for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as always, you guys. I enjoy like the Deke stuff. We got Deke back.
I loved
that
Deke.
storyline was amazing.
Deke was awesome.
Deke was so much fun in this episode. I love that they put him as like a tech billionaire because he's from the future. He could just do that.
Yeah.
And he's like so weird when he programs Daisy into a framework video game.
Not
so
surprising.
insane.
And
all, but
somehow he's dating that friggin'
Sequoia?
influencer that you're just like, wait, what?
Of course
You're
he
so
is.
smart.
Yeah.
What's
Of
happening?
course he is. Deke doesn't.
He's
Deke
going the
is-
complete opposite.
Deke
of,
has no street smarts. He would remember the first
So,
person that like paid him any attention.
Remember what
What a
we told you
dummy.
about Deke is that he drinks Zima. That girl's like a walking, talking Zima.
Oh,
Kinda,
okay.
yeah.
So personality-wise.
The problem that I have with this episode was that Yo-Yo's storyline made like it was the classic case of a character forgets that they have superpowers
Right.
in the exact right moment to use them, and where like literally she could have reached and taken that pterodactyl thing
Yeah.
and like solved it in a heartbeat, a literal heartbeat, because that's her power, and she just doesn't in that moment. She does later to clean it up, but not to save the day. That stuff, like I get that you're trying to progress a plot, but like you got to at least explain why it didn't happen. Either she froze and that's something we're gonna have to deal with, or her powers don't work anymore, or like obviously they do.
Or she just says she's afraid she would have hurt him. So
Something.
that would have been
it just
fine.
needed something,
Yeah,
but she just didn't.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah, that was definitely
that one was
didn't work
tough.
for me.
All right, Doom's question corner. This one was sent into us under the alias of Bruce Banner.
Hey, big fan of your
I
work.
don't think Bruce is sending this one to us, but
That'd have been
but
cool.
I want to talk about this. Will take a moment to explain, but like, so this is the question. I'm gonna call you out a little bit. The question is, do you think Marvel will ever do a socially relevant Oscar-worthy movie in the vein of Joaquin Phoenix's new Joker movie? Do you think Marvel should try that route? Do I think Marvel will ever do a socially relevant Oscar-worthy movie? I think maybe they could call it Black Panther and win like a bunch of Academy Awards for it. And tell a socially relevant story. So I'm sorry, I had to call you out on that one. Like literally, they just won a bunch of Oscars, nominated for Best Picture for Black Panther. In the vein of Joaquin Phoenix's new Joker movie, or Incel the movie, if you will, I will make no show of that. I'm not really excited to see that movie as much as it looks like it was well made. Not excited about it. So really, the heart of this question. And they say, ask, if so, what character storyline would you use? I think what they're trying to ask, I'm sorry if I called you out really hard, but I had to. Do you think that Marvel would do a straight up drama? Like, we've had darker movies, more serious movies. Black Widow inevitably will be a more serious movie than most. But do you think that Marvel would do a straight up just drama in the vein of, let's say, Logan, as a better example of like something that you could do? Will the MCU ever see that kind of movie?
I personally, and I know that I looked at this before and I was really trying to think about it. I honestly can't think of a character or a way that would really work. It would have to be a standalone movie, and it couldn't really be connected to the MCU. So I guess the short answer for that would be no.
Yeah, when we were talking about this beforehand, the one character that I thought you could do this sort of thing with is somebody like Moon Knight, because he's essentially, yes, I know, he's essentially Batman, though. So you could definitely do that, you know? So I could see something like that, but even that, I don't feel like that's quite the right thing. Logan was the perfect take, and yes, that's not MCU, but that's great. A character that really lends itself to that, especially end of his life. So, you know, I mean... Could you do some crazy old man Hulk? I'd watch that, especially if he's old man Professor Hulk.
I think it will, and if we're gonna do that, it'll end up being something that you're not expecting. A character that's been around for a lot of the MCU, like the way that Logan was around for so long.
Yeah.
You would in 2005, you would never have expected a dark cinematic, like drama about Wolverine. It wouldn't have made sense.
To me, arguably one of my favorite movies.
Yes, it's arguably the best superhero movie to date. Like you can debate that, and like it's a lot of that's a preference, but
for me,
unquestionably deserves to be in that conversation. I don't know if the MCU can fit a true drama. Like Black Panther is a drama, but it is a superhero, is an action movie. Like, could you do just a straight up drama that has action sequences and doesn't really hit the humor that heavily? I don't know. I think it'll be a character that'll have been around for a long time, and just the way that Logan did, like, finds a way to use the on-screen version of them and bend it into a more darker take.
You would enjoy the movie that Senor Nerd is mentioning in like this conversation. If Marvel were to do the Doom movie by Noah Hawley, a.k.a. the Legion guy, the Doom character, you absolutely could do this with.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. That's a great point. And even the one that Noah Hawley was talking about would totally fit, and would fit within the MCU. That could be a really deep movie. Actually, Namor. If you do them in a certain light, a lot of those classic characters, I would say, actually fit that bill a little bit heavier. Namor, if you really did a sort of like heavy Lies the Crown, which you've already done a little bit with Black Panther, but he's a supervillain, and I think so I will stand corrected on my own stuff.
Yeah, same.
Doom is a perfect choice for that. I would watch the heck out of that movie. I've already said that so many times. All right. That's unfortunately our time for today. Yeah. Please keep sending in your questions for Doom's Question Corner. Dude, Doom's Question Corner, it's the name of the segment, you guys.
So Doom's Question Corner
at
gmail.com.
I've never written to Doom's Question Corner, and yet I know the address. I'm not Doom, and I still know it.
Yeah. So you go to your email address and you click compose, and then when it says recipient, like who you're sending it to, you write Doom's Question Corner at gmail.com. And you type the email.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. We got to wrap it up. But thank you guys so much for joining us. And keep throwing your ideas, your questions. Like, who would you see, answer that for us. Who would you want to see a straight up drama? Yeah. Not an action movie, not like a Marvel style, like mixed bag, like Winter Soldier, but a straight up drama about in the MCU. let us know in the comments below or just tweet it out to us. You can find Christian
at Christian DMZ on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find Zia and I Sunday nights, as we mentioned earlier, at 9 Pacific over on AfterBuzz TV for Marvel TV Weekly. And of course, as we mentioned before, if you're a podcast listener, you're just going to hear that show in the same feed as you hear this show, at least for the next few weeks. So let us know what you think of that.
And I'm Xia Anderson, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Xia_Land. That's XIA_Land, and on Facebook at Xia Landerson.
And I'm Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson. And I have to tease the episode of Ships in the Night, my other podcast that we just put out, where we take weird characters from different fandoms and ship them together. Because this week we released an episode with Marvel Movie News' own Coy Jandreau, where we shipped Captain America with Wonder Woman.
Oh, perfect.
And, oh boy, did it get fun, twisty, and I'll just drop the phrase, wholesome BDSM. You'll have to listen to understand
Because
what
I need
that
to know
means.
how BDSM would be wholesome, but yes.
With Captain America and Wonder Woman, it is. All right, guys, this has been, that show's called Ships in the Night. This has been Marvel Movie News. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.